Good evening, the wonderful world of social media. How are you this very bright and sunny evening? It's been a lovely day today, hasn't it? I never know what I am going to say when I come on a live. You know that. I have absolutely no clue until I open my mouth. I just show up and know what I'm going to talk about, and it just comes out. But anyway, it's been an incredibly busy week. I don't know how you guys are feeling. I don't know whether you've felt a shift in the energy of the universe, of the world that we live in. I certainly am feeling that. I don't know why, what's happening, but I want to talk about that anyway tonight. So I'll wait and see if anybody drops on. And it doesn't matter if nobody does, because I'll just chat to you anyway, which is why I show up on a Tuesday night. So I'm going to be talking to you tonight about leadership and creativity and how I think that they are cosmically aligned. And that comes from decades of experience, not me just plucking that out of the air and thinking that's what I'll talk about this week. So I'll start talking about that soon, but I'll do my normal weekly introduction for you all. So I'm Mandy Nicholson, and I am a creative genius consultant, artist, I always do the wrong thing, artist and author, and I help creative women to launch, grow and scale their business and make more money, because I am on a mission to get creative women making more wealth, because I think they're going to change the world. So that's my mission. So how has your week been? Let me know whether you are watching live or watching on replay, where you're watching from. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments, say hi. I've had a week filled with, I tried to summarize my week, I've written it down on a piece of paper before I came on tonight. It's been a week of recognizing that I've not been feeling great and implementing some real self-care. So last week I went for an eye test and I've ordered some new glasses. I also had lashes and brows. I've got a hair appointment for Monday, thank goodness. Do something with this COVID hair. I've had terrifying quotes for the new house, the house in Scotland that's getting bigger and bigger as we go. Dubious, seen and experienced people on the end of dubious business practices, which always upsets me. People not being treated well through people that they've worked with. I've had a week of chasing people for quotes and really fatigue and headaches, but also inspiration, because I think the two almost come together for creatives when you're having inspired ideas, and my inspired ideas are coming from a place deep within for this new project that's coming up with the house in Scotland. So, and all of that links into being a leader in your life and being a leader in your business. Now, when I say I speak from experience, I really do, because when I got my first role in corporate retail as a manager, I started out as a manager and I became a leader. And they're two very different things. You have the same job description sometimes for these things, but actually the difference between the manager and the leader is huge, exponential. It's been a fascinating subject for me. I've spoken about it lots. I've written about leadership in magazines and articles in stateside and in the UK. So there's been decades of study for me on the subject of leadership. But when I try and pin leadership down to, entrepreneurs, to women, to the creative women that I work with all of the time, there is one thing that shows up wherever you look at leadership traits, wherever you look at leadership and great leaders. I've narrowed it down to 5 things that I think are really vital to be a great inspirational leader in your life and in your business. And those things are communication, creativity, motivation, positivity, and feedback. And I'm going to talk about each one of those briefly tonight. But note there's creativity in there. It doesn't matter where you look for leadership traits, creativity is in there, because by design, entrepreneurs and leaders need to be creative. This is why creative women that are going into business, you have an advantage. Once you can step into that leadership role, understand the traits and the persona, you actually have an advantage because you already have the creativity. You don't even realize it yet. It's what set me apart in the corporate world. The one thing, creativity, was what set me apart. So let's take each of those, and I want to talk through them. The first one is communication, because to be a good manager, you need to be good at communication. To be a great leader, you need to be great at communication. Communicating what you want, what you see, to your team, for your team, from your team, to your customers. There's so many different ways that you have got to be great at communication. And we sometimes fail at this as human beings, let alone as leaders. We fail to be able to have tough conversations. We avoid conflict instead of going into conflict and learning how to communicate in that environment. We avoid telling people things, good and bad. We forget to do it. We forget to communicate. We think that people can read our minds and that they know what we want. And that's just not how it is. You can never communicate too much. It's one of the key things that are going to set you apart from other people. So that comes in every single way, from every post that you make, every conversation that you have in Messenger, in real life, on the telephone, every live that you do, every time you show up anywhere on social media, it's communication. It's communication. Sometimes we don't even do it well with our families and the people that are around us and the people that we love. So how then can we get that right in business? So communication is the number one trait. Look at how you communicate. How much time do you allow in your diary and in your planning to communicate with all the people that you touch in your business? And how well do you do it? Because, have you ever received a text and thought that it sounded a bit off, or an email? Sometimes I just pick up the phone because the spoken word is so much easier to understand and comprehend for us as human beings than text or typing. So think about that. I want you to think about that. And around these 5 topics that I'm talking about tonight, get yourself some goals written down, things that you can change, that you can develop in your business in all of these, because this will move you closer to becoming a leader in your life and business. So number 2 is creativity. And this is why I think leadership and creativity are cosmically aligned, because you can't be a great leader without having creativity. And I don't want to offend anybody here, but there's not many accountants that are great leaders. The linear thinkers are great at what they do, and they're so necessary in business, but they don't always make great leaders, because you need that flair, that creativity, that risk-taking that it takes to be the person at the front leading the rest of the troops. Thinking creatively about where you are taking people. Creating vision is a creative pursuit. So creativity, if you are already creative, tick that box, ladies. If you are a creative woman, you already have that. Use it to your full advantage. When I was in retail, it was my creativity that set me apart. It was that ability to think and see differently to my peers that actually set me apart as a manager and as a leader. The next trait that I covered was motivation. Great leaders are really motivated. And I also think it's a bit subjective, isn't it? What is motivation? Motivation is about having a really clear vision, isn't it? Doesn't mean that motivation to me does not mean working long days, having to work 60-hour weeks and showing the world that you are motivated by the volume that you work. Motivation for me is having a really clear vision and goal, and actually talking about that all the time and driving towards that all of the time. That does not mean you have to work 100 hours to do that. So I think there's a misconception around motivation. people see you as motivated if you're always working. No, people also see you as motivated if you're clear on your vision and you're moving towards it, and they can see that. So look at that as a trait. Positivity. Leaders are positive. I will not accept negativity in my business in any way from anybody. There's always a flip it statement of how do we flip that into a positive? How do we change that? There's never a barrier, never an obstacle. And leaders in life and in business will have that ability to flip anything into a positive action or a positive journey that you're on. And then the final trait was feedback. Now, feedback for me has been one of the most valuable tools that I have ever used. And that means giving it and receiving it. Understanding how to give feedback really, really well, and understanding how to receive feedback really, really well without being defensive, without actually getting aggy with people. Let's just say it as it is. Shows that you are a thought leader. You are somebody who can consider the views and opinions of others and communicate your views and opinions really well in giving feedback to people. I usually, as a rule, and call me out if I'm wrong here, will always ask permission to give feedback before I give it, so that the person that's receiving it knows that that's what I'm going to be doing. We loop back to communication. And what happens with these 5 different traits that I've picked is they're all interwoven and they loop back. To give and receive great feedback, you've got to be a great communicator. You've got to be creative in your thinking. You've got to be positive and motivated that the person receiving, and when you're receiving it, that you're going to do something positive with it. They are all interlinked. So when you start thinking about leadership in your life and in your business, if you start with those 5 things and look at what you're doing right now, communication, creativity, motivation, positivity, and feedback, and set yourself some goals around each of them of how you're going to move each one forward, even just a little bit. How can you communicate more effectively? How can you use your creative talents to drive your business? Is your motivation in the right place? Are you working 100 hours a week? Do you need to work less in order to work more, but be really productive in that time? Set yourself some goals around those 5 areas. Because great leaders, and I want you to understand and believe this statement because I'm going to discuss it now. What you see is possible. It is possible. So remember, most of you know, if you've been following me and watched me before, I see a castle. I see me bringing people from all over the world to that castle to participate in life-changing creative retreats. That's on my vision board. That's what I talk about. I communicate it all of the time. I am known as the castle lady. I get messages all of the time from people I don't know saying, there's a castle for sale here, Mandy. Now, in driving forward towards that goal, I have manifested myself a house in Scotland, a 7-bedroom house, which I am going to create retreats in. So although I'm not at the castle yet, I'm definitely on my way, and people can see that I'm a woman of my word. I talk about my goals. I see it, so I believe it's possible. And I'm taking the first step towards it. So if you are a leader, it's about holding your nerve on your vision, seeing what you want and thinking really big. It's okay for you to think big. Let me put that in context. So when I was a store manager, I wanted to be in the top performing store. I didn't want to be the second best performing store in the company. I wanted to be the top performing store in the company. And they put me in the worst performing store in the company to prove my point. My first appointment was in probably one of the worst performing stores in the country, doing around £30,000 out of 14,000 square feet and hemorrhaging money at every single orifice. But I could see I could see that this store had the potential. I could take that deflated team and turn them into a motivated team. I could listen to the customers and I could change that. I could see how I wanted it to look. And I taught that team to think about launch day standards, perfect store, launch day standards. We had it everywhere, every office, everywhere. So I had a vision. What I saw, I believed to be possible. And I communicated that with my team. I was creative in the ways that I did that. And we actually ended up the top performing store in the company. And that store went from £30,000 a week to £120,000 a week, which was a lot back then, in 25 years ago. And was nearly 400% up year on year in sales within 2 years of me going into it. So I saw what I wanted. I believed it was possible. So can I get to that castle? Absolutely, because I believe it's possible. And this is where you need to be with your goals as a leader, is creating big, bold goals, believing them 100% and seeing them. This is where your creativity comes in. When you believe it with every ounce of your being and your soul and your mind, and nobody is going to knock you off. You're not going to get any imposter syndrome. You're not going to believe anybody who says you can't do it. There are naysayers out there that think I'm talking through a hole in my ass when I say I'm going to go and get a castle in Scotland to run creative retreats. And I don't listen to them because I see it. And I believe it. I know how I am going to feel when I get it. And I know how I'm going to make other people feel when they come. That's how to create, as a leader, everything that you want to achieve, whether it's for a company or whether it's for your company or whether it's for you personally. Your ability to see it and feel it, to believe that you can create it, and then to use those 5 traits to communicate it to the world, to create the creative that goes with it. So that castle, most of you know, I won't turn the camera around today, is on the vision board that I can touch from here. And it's Brecon Castle. I know how much it is. I'm registered with the estate agents. I know how it's going to feel. So I communicate it. I tell people, I talk about it almost every week on here. So I've got the creative that goes with that. I'm motivated. Every action I take in my business is about getting to that place, including buying this house in Dalbeattie and taking the stepping stone property and creating the retreats for 3, which will eventually, upscale into, it's almost like I've got a practice run, and I'm grateful for that. And then feeling really positive about it and feeding back to anything that doesn't meet the standards to get me there. So my goals for this year with my team, and ask any of them, they will tell you, is we want to attain world-class standards. So world-class website, world-class in everything we do. And the feedback that I give them is based on that goal, that the team understands that we are going for world-class. We are not there yet, but the goal is there, that by the end of this year, everything we do and everything that we have in terms of digital assets will be world-class. That's about leading and making a decision as to how you want things to be, where your integrity lies, how you are going to communicate that, how you're going to follow that up, how you're going to stay motivated, and how you're going to keep your team motivated if you have one. Even if the team is one and it's you. It doesn't matter. How are you going to keep yourself motivated, positive? How do you, if there's only you, how do you look for feedback? How do you get that really valuable feedback that helps you to move yourself or your business forward? Do you actively go and seek that? Do you ask for it? And if you ask for it, do you receive it well? So I know there's a lot in here, and it's really difficult to talk about leadership because it's such, I've been studying it for decades. So to try and condense it into one 20-minute live for you on a Tuesday night is really hard for me and for anyone else. But if you take one thing, if you go away tonight and look at one thing and go and look at your communication and how you can be better, then you're on your way, because then you can look at the rest afterwards. If you want to be a really successful leader of your life and leader of your business, you need to understand what it takes to be that person. You've got it in you, because we all have. You've got an inner wealth of knowledge and wisdom inside you already that knows the answers. Sometimes your inner critic is shouting louder and you listen to it more. If you try and quieten that inner critic and listen more to the knowledge that you know you've already got, that's when you start to become a leader in your life and business. So, in summary, tonight, I have talked about the 5 things that I think are the most important for you to look at now in terms of stepping up as a leader. Communication. Become a great communicator. Creativity, you've probably already got that, but actually use it. Use your creativity. Don't be frightened to do that. Motivation. How are you motivated? Stop working all the hours, work less hours and work more productively. Positivity. How do you ooze that to the world, to your team, to yourself, and flip everything into a positive, even if it feels devastating? And feedback, finally. Do you feedback through your team? If there's only you, how do you seek it? So hopefully that's given you food for thought tonight. I hope it has. I will be back next Tuesday night talking about more things that can help you in life and business. Please, contact me if you have any questions or queries around any of the things that I've shared with you tonight. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next week.